Vaishnavi, over to you. Let's begin.
Okay, sir. Sir, Keshav sir, can we start this as this has been recorded and for all the viewers, it's live also. So shall we start?
Yes, we can proceed, please. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next slide, please. Okay. So in the next 60 minutes, we'll learn about the different legal compliances for the startup sector in India, the types of businesses, registrations, taxation compliances, and intellectual property rights, and a lot more about in next 60 minutes. So it will be a great learning for all the viewers. Now, for next 60 minutes, if anyone missed anything, don't worry. We'll share a recording of this on our YouTube channel. This is our logo, and we can update for further sessions or webinars that we are going to do. So this is for you. If you are aiming to run and grow a startup successfully in India, this webinar is helpful for you for your start. And if you want to get a clarity on the different legal compliances required for your startup, this webinar will definitely help you in that, as our mentor is, who is our today's guest and why should you listen to him? So our guest is Advocate H.P. Keshava sir. Sir is founder and managing attorney at Bhaskar & Associates LLP, founder Exodium eHub. Sir, now talking about sir's educational background, sir is Bachelor's of Arts, LLB, LLM, PhD post-graduation in cybersecurity, diploma in intellectual property, and now sir is currently pursuing PhD in law. As sir is diversified qualification, sir has also BSc in psychology and MSc in psychology. Sir has also completed advanced diploma in cyber laws. Next slide. So, guys, before we begin our section, here are the 3 reasons why we have organized this webinar and what are the benefits that you are getting from this webinar. So there are 3 important reasons. First is importance of having a perfect guide. Secondly, importance of having the perfect guide at the right time. And thirdly, the most important is importance of having a perfect guide at the right time in least resources and high security. So talking about my personal experience, in COVID time, after completing my graduation, I was so confused what I should pursue as in my post-graduation, what are the fields that I'll prefer. Then my coaching mentor came to me and he suggested me that pursue that you want, that is your interest and which you are best at it. So now I'm pursuing my post-graduation, which suits my personality and my skills, and obviously it will impact my personality also and improve my all over skills. Now our secret is open to you all. Let's watch a 53 seconds video to know more about this and then proceed the webinar presented by Advocate H.P. Keshava sir. So this is the 53 seconds video.
Mentami is a secure digital space where mentees can book exclusive one-to-one sessions with the mentor of their choice. Mentami curates mentor profiles through multiple scrutinies. Mentami's selected mentors can provide guidance in a wide range of domains like personal finance, startup consultancy, psychological well-being, and a lot more. So how does Mentami work? First, you sign up, then can choose your mentor, book a session, answer a questionnaire, attend the session, and track your progress. You can see all our mentors with their background, experience, qualification, and expertise. So, what are you waiting for? Sign up now and learn on the go. Only on app.mentami.com.
Vaishnavi, I think you're on mute.
Sorry. So it's a good news for you all who are registered to this webinar. If you sign up today, then we are giving you free entry to your upcoming paid workshop and a 50% discount on the first booking on Mentami. The sign up link will be shared to you via email after today's webinar. So, Keshav sir, I would like to take you further to the slides.
Thank you, Vaishnavi ji, and thank you, Team Mentami, for giving me this opportunity to talk about basically the legal compliances that we need for startups. So before we begin, we always had a dream, like when we were back in school or we were back in college. Like just in my case, like when I was back in college, me and my roommates, we always used to have this discussion, this little thought, कि यार अगर career में कुछ नहीं हुआ तो अपना एक cafe खोल लेंगे. So this is one kind of a statement we have often made from time to time. So in simple words, we all are startup owners or we all have a startup idea. But what really stops us? What really stops us? That is that one question which has always been like a mind-boggling thing. And that has been that one question which has even been a barrier when we think about actually creating our own startup. Let it be as simple as just opening a cafe, or let it be as simple as opening a food-based business. Let it be as simple as starting an IT-based business, or let it be as simple as providing laundry services from door to door. Like one of the best examples I can take for you is Mustache Laundry. So this one particular company, they started with a door-to-door laundry service, and today they have a very raging business like in the city of Pune, Bangalore, and many other cities. What makes a startup really strong? Is it marketing? Is it advertising? Is it the legal compliance? Is it probably the entire business design? It's a mixed match of everything. Basically, it's a permutation and combination of everything. But when we talk about legal compliances per se, it forms what we call as the backbone of any particular business. Because if you ask any business owner, they will tell you one thing in common. They'll say that when I started my startup, I had just one fear, and that is that just one concern. And I asked them, what would that concern be? And their concern was very straightforward. Yeah, I just want to make sure that I don't make any mistakes on the way. So I asked them, to you, what do you mean by mistakes? Mistakes in your business, mistakes in your marketing? They said, mistakes as per the law. Because sometimes we think that something is right for us, but when we end up doing it, when we end up performing it, when we end up executing it, we realize that the law doesn't allow us. We end up receiving a nice little love letter, as we call it, the legal notice. So how to go about it? What do we need to understand to, first of all, keep us safe? Just to give a basic introduction, there are two types of ways in which law can be handled. One, you make a mistake, you go to court, or you keep your legal compliances so strong that you don't even need to go to the court. So that is what you got to keep in mind. Can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So let's begin by understanding how many types of businesses are there. Now, many times, even as friends, we have spoken to our friends and said, कि साथ में कुछ करते हैं. Let us do something together. Now, when that kind of a question comes by, have you ever thought that what could be the challenges? There's a very famous saying, a really good roommate can become a really best friend, but a best friend can never become a good roommate. Now, why do they say such kind of a statement? It's a very funny statement. Same way, even in business, there is a saying, a partner or a co-director can become a very close friend, but a very close friend can sometimes not become a partner or sometimes cannot become a really good co-director. Now, why do they say these statements? I mean, why do our parents say these statements? Why do our friends say these statements? Why do our mentors say these statements? It is because when it comes down to legal compliances, there are responsibilities, there are obligations, and there are limitations. So let us go step by step to understand. So if I have a basic idea, if I have a fundamental idea, the first thing I would want to do is I would want to run the show on my own. So when I have to run the entire show on my own, run the entire business on my own, I would choose to create what you call as a sole proprietor based organization. I will not use the word company. I will not throw around the word company over here. We start with what you call as a sole proprietor based organization. Here, I'm the only one who's responsible. Here, I'm the only one who takes care of affairs. Here, I'm the only one who has to make sure that my business is going right or wrong. Here, to be like to put it in simple terms, every liability and responsibility comes only and only on me. I need a shop act registration. I need a shop. I need a place where I can, a premises where I can run my business. I need a brand name. I need a trademark, and that's it. My identity is secure. And for those people handling with heavy funds, it's better to have a current account. Which takes me to the next type, which is called as a partnership firm. What is a partnership firm? Very simple terms, you partner up with another person who's above the age of 18, because a partner has to be minimum the age of 18, and together you start a business. Here, you just execute a partnership deed, take a stamp paper, have the deed executed. As a partner, you explain your responsibilities. As a partner, the other individual, they explain their responsibilities. You may or may not have a name. You register it under the Indian Partnership Act. You just register it in the code. That's it. Again, you may need a shop act, you may need a trademark, and you will have to do your general compliances. But which takes us to the next type of an entity, which is called as a limited liability partnership. Many a time people have got confused and they've asked me, so what is the difference between a partner and a partnership and an LLP? The entire difference is very simple and straightforward. A partnership is basically in like two individuals coming together, which has been coupled up and which has been placed down and known as just a piece of paper. But an LLP, on the contrary, is much more advanced. For an LLP, both the partners will have to issue what you call as a director's identification number. Both the partners will have to register with the registrar of companies. Both the partners register their LLP, that is the limited liability partnership, with the registrar of companies, and their compliances become such that their entire structuring will appear as if it is a full-scale company or a private limited. And to seal it all, the fundamental documentation that is required is your partnership deed. So once the partnership deed is in place, signed by both the partners, submitted to the registrar of companies, a name is chosen by the registrar of companies. The registrar of company approves the name is allotted to the partnership. And finally, when the partnership is floating in the market, it is becoming a limited liability partnership. Which takes me to the next type, which is called as your most favorite, private limited company. Now, what exactly is this private limited company and how is it different from the others? And why do people come immediately and say, ki, I want to make a private limited, mujhe private limited banana hai. Private limited mein ye hai, private limited mein wo hai. Very simple. It is a private limited company, is a company limited by shares. A company which is limited by shares. Now, in a private limited company, the most simple and the basic thing you can remember is where you hear the word director, that means it's a private limited company. Where you hear the word director when it comes to companies and organizations, we are talking about a private limited company. That's the most simplistic way of explaining it. So in a private limited company, you basically create what you call as the articles of association, which talks about the entire company, the working of the company. You have the memorandum of association that you explain to the world what you are, what you do, how you do. And then you have both the consent coming from the directors, minimum 2 directors, and it can go up to a certain number. So once all these compliances are done, then you execute the entire company. Again, you need a director's identification number for both the parties. So here is a place where you may ask me a question. So for LLP also, you said a director's identification number. For private limited also, you're saying a director's identification number. A director's identification number is issued to give you the authority or power through a digital signature and a signing authority through the ROC, Registrar of Companies, to be able to incorporate an organization. So don't confuse if you hear the word director in LLP. There are no directors in LLP, but every partner has a director's identification number. But the same when we look at a private limited company, it is a little different. It has a much more deeper compliance, many documents, the powers of each directors are there. There is a share value over there. There is even an equity sharing aspect that comes by. And most importantly, when you're dealing with a director, when you particularly, you can choose whether who becomes a majority director, who becomes the managing director, and who actually can dictate terms, who can control. So all these factors happen. So you need to remember that a company per se is created in such a manner that it becomes an artificial person. A company becomes an artificial person. So if somebody has a problem against the services of a company, they sue the company, not the directors. Somebody has a problem against a partnership, they sue the partnership, not the partner. So that ways, a company, a private limited, can buy its own assets, can take loans, can set up its own businesses, can give loans, can create a proper ecosystem for other companies to grow, can become a mother company and can become like have subsidiary companies under it. So all these factors come in. That's the reason why a private limited company has always been considered as one of the most elite. But then again, my dear fellow startup owners and entrepreneurs, choose a company that fits best for you. Just because you like the suit doesn't mean you'll wear a suit on the Thar desert. And just because you like to be in your shorts and t-shirt doesn't mean that you'll wear that when you're sitting in Himalayas. Because you need to have the right kind of a fitting or the right kind of a clothing for the situation at hand. Same way, you need to choose the right kind of a company or the right kind of a company formation model or an organization formation model depending on your business. Never rush with a compliance because it sounds cool. Go with a compliance only if your mentor has advised you to do it. Which takes me to the next type of a company, which is called as the public limited company. Now, a public limited company is basically a company which is created and associated with the government. So that's the most simplest way of telling. It also has a series of compliances. It will also have a set of articles. It will have a memorandum of its own. But to put it in simple terms or to put it in simpler terms, this is where the Indian government will get involved. And the last is the OPC. Now, in my opinion, a one-person company is designed or created only in case of a situation or only in case of a scenario where you have to keep in mind that as a single person, you are ready to also be a single director of the company. When you become a single person, when you become a single director of the company, that's all it takes to create an entire ecosystem, an entire private limited, but with not multiple directors, but with only a single directors. Okay? And the best way to understand whether you are deserving to be an OPC, whether you can become an OPC, is if you're willing to handle the entire liability of the organization on your shoulders. It's always advisable to go for a private limited over OPC, but many a times there are individuals who have always felt or believed that the entire organization can only be controlled on their own shoulders. So these are the people, and they want a compliance, they want a private limited next to their name. So that is where they create what you call as a one-person company. I think at this point, I just noticed that we have received a single question: how to decide which type of company to form. Okay. So thank you, Chinmayji. So just to keep this answer a little short and sweet, like I said, you need to choose your best fit. You need to choose which company compliance or which company type fits your organization the best. Now, if you're just starting a startup at home, let's say it's a home-based business, there's no point in making it an LLP or a private limited. It is more than enough if you just keep it as a sole proprietor. Now, let's say you started a preschool with a friend. There is no point again to go for an LLP or a private limited. It's much better if you just put it as a simple partnership. But if you are opening many branches of these schools, if you're opening many branches of your school and you're franchising your school out, and then you want to take the partnership to the next level, then you convert it into a limited liability partnership. Now, let's say that for a platform like Mentami, Mentami being a platform which is providing mentors, and it is providing this all across the world. So where this kind of a platform is created, it won't work as a partnership. Why? Because if it starts taking partners everywhere, then every partner will have a right or a demand. So what would Mentami do wisely? They would say that since I am a global platform, since we are a platform that actually provides a certain kind of services, which provides mentors and experts all across the world. So we would choose a private limited model so that I can even approach other countries. I can even go to other countries, and if required, I can even form my sister concerns in other countries. So that is the reason why an organization like Mentami would prefer to go for a private limited kind of a setup. So as you can see, choosing the best fit is basically saying how much you're willing to pay, number one, how much you're willing to expand, number two, and last but not the least, how many people you need to control without them trying to control you is what you have to keep in mind. So when all these factors are understood right, you will know exactly what type of business you are looking at. Can you go to the next slide, please? Well, I've just received one more question on my direct message. So this question is an one-person company or sole proprietorship considered as an artificial person too? So a sole proprietor will not be considered as an artificial person. Private limited and LLPs are seen as an artificial person. Sole proprietors will be seen as the individual himself, because it's the individual who is creating the impact on the organization, right? So when the individual is creating an impact on the organization, then prima facie the liability falls on the individual. But if I am talking about a one-person company, then it's a very good question that whether a one-person company is again one person, right? But remember, it's a one-person company. Obviously, that person would have given a name and a title and would have incorporated the entire thing as a private limited. So the private limited per se gets a title of an artificial person, but the liability will fall on the person himself or herself who's controlling it. I hope I've answered your question, whoever this was, so direct messages. Okay, registration. Yeah, thank you. So let's go to the registration. Now, see, basically, when you're talking about registering a company, it is not a very big Einstein's theory, but humble advice, have a good lawyer, have a good chartered accountant or a company secretary to advise you. Okay, because let's be honest, when you do the entire compliance, the documentation and the actual due diligence is where you need the right people to support you. But otherwise, if we are going ahead with a registration process, what you do is you incorporate a business, you create a business, you register the business as a startup with Startup India. Okay, you get your DPIIT recognition. So through that, people know that you exist, you are there, you're a startup, and they should not tax you too much just because you're a company. Then you will have a recognition application. In the recognition application, through the Startup India program, you actually create a modus where people will know कि ये startup है, इस startup को startup की तरह treat किया जाए. Not treat a basic startup like the Tatas or Mahindra. And just because the startup has a very high potential, not treat it as a kid also. So once you're going ahead with the entire registration process, you have to keep in mind that when you create the entire startup registration India program, or you're going for the MSME registration, keep your documents strong. Because if you go through the Startup India, you are open for subsidies. You are actually eligible for a lot of discounts. You are eligible for a lot of bank loans. You are eligible for funding. You are also eligible for discounts on, when I said discounts, it's not purchase or sale discount. Discount on trademarks, discount on patents, discount on designs. So these like financially viable options can be availed if we are going through a Startup India program types registration. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay. Now coming to obtaining licenses. Now, what exactly are these licenses basically? Why do I need a license? Like a car license, or what exactly is it? Now, just because you have a startup idea, you have entered the startup market, you have incorporated a company, doesn't mean that ki, yeah, chalo main kuch bhi kar sakta hu. I've started my food industry, so let me sell whatever I want. I've started my bicycle industry, so let me just manufacture any kind of a cycle and I'll just sell it in the market and bikega. It's never the situation. This is where many startups have gone wrong and they have failed. The most simple thing is that if you are in a certain industry, and if let's say you have a factory for that particular startup, A small factory also, you need the factory's license. If you're in the food and development industry, then you need the food security license. If you are actually creating a certain kind of a vehicle, a motor or an engine, which does have a certain kind of a pollution output, then you need an environmental clearance. If you are setting up the entire building or the premises on a near an agricultural land or near an area where the trees may or may not be affected, then you need an environmental clearance again. If you're creating a certain kind of a mechanism to provide a lot of food to individuals, a lot of food to people, then you need to ensure that you have the Food Adulteration Act certificate. Now, where you have your basic e-commerce based structure, then you will need to have your service tax registration. Now, when such kind of a situation, such kind of a scenario is done, when such kind of a scenario is taken forward, these licenses play a very, very, very important role. Because without these licenses, you do not have the basic like permission to get into the industry. And you'll have to mention these licenses on your packaging, on your products when you're taking it forward. Which clearly takes me to even other few types of license where we have the ISO certification, we have the FSSI license. So these standards actually give you a global recognition to say that your products are authentic, your services are authentic, and most importantly, where you're providing all these products, all these entities, these elements will be so authentic in nature that people will trust you for who you are. It's a very simple thing. If I'm going to a shop, I'm buying a product, I would definitely look behind the package. I would not look at the brand first. I would also see how authentic is this brand. I will see what are the ingredients. And only if I see the authentic license certificate over there or the authentic license seal, only then I know that this is an authentic product per se. Can we go to the next slide, please? Now let us come into the basic compliances that are required once you've established a company. Now, when you have established a company, you got to keep in mind that these particular things, these elements that you're seeing on the screen are compulsorily there. You should have an annual general meeting, meaning that you should actually have all the directors come together, all the CEOs, all the decision makers to come together and constantly update and plan out as to how the entire structuring is done. And this has to be documented. This is not like a strategy program. Even the law itself dictates that this needs to be done. Then you need to have regular board meetings. So when regular board meetings are to be considered, when regular board meetings are to be thought of, then board meetings are where basically the board of directors come together. Next, the auditors compliances. So the auditors compliance are basically as simple as tax compliances or tax auditing as we call it. So you need an auditor's report from time to time. And without an auditor's report, no organization's finances are clean. Then you have your director's report. The directors will have to give a proper report on what has been done till now and what has been done in the future. Maintenance of books of accounts. Even under the Income Tax Act, even under the GST rules, even under many different taxation laws and many different like the compliance-based rules, you have to keep in mind that without a really good book of accounts, an organization cannot proceed. Because if you take the entire Satyam scam that happened, it was all because the book of accounts had been moved around. And then coming down to the financial statements, creating the financial statements from time to time to ensure easy functioning of the organization alongside the easy functioning of the business also. Can we go to the next slide, please? Now let's come to the basic and the most important thing. Recently, my younger brother, he decided that he decided to start his own startup. So he just asked me a very simple question. Like, Bhaiya, what do I need to do to make sure that I pay the least amount of tax? So I had this look at him and I was like, why do you want to ask that question? He said, no, I have a lot of expenditure coming my way and I have a lot of savings to do and I really want to buy expensive stuff. So I want to know how much amount of taxes I can save or how much amount of less taxes I can pay. I started laughing at that question because it was a very innocent question. But when I look back, when I look at any organization, that is one fear. That is one thing that we all worry about. That is one thing we all have always thought about. How are we exactly going to work on the taxes? something as simple as when we are talking about the taxation compliances, we need to have regular income tax returns filed. We need to have regular tax reports to be prepared. We need to have our TDS returns to be prepared. Then we have to see what is our tax liability assessment. And with GST coming into play, we have our monthly compliance, we have our quarterly compliance, and we have our annual returns also. These form the basic front line for your entire financial structure. Because see, paying taxes are inevitable. So like we have already accepted the fact, a company is also an artificial person. A company is also basically acting and functioning as a person. So where a company is already acting and functioning as a person, so the person, this artificial person also has tax liabilities on them. So if you are taking a GST number, if you have taken you're doing your GST compliance from time to time, then you are keeping your books clean. Same goes for companies who are, filing their annual tax returns. Because one mistake that I've seen companies make is that they say that let me show 1,000 mistakes, or rather I will show 1,000 losses. I'll show 1,000 expenditures, and I can claim a certain amount of benefit on the taxation front. Let me make X amount of investments and I can get those benefits. See, this is not one of the most ethical way of doing it. But if you have genuine expenses and if you know how to route your genuine expenses, yes, the tax liability or the tax slab will be a little lower for you. But do not try to manipulate these taxes, because the more you try to do that, then you are thrown in a situation that then you're thrown in a situation where companies will think, or rather others will think, the ROC will think, the income tax department will think that there is no growth at all. And since there is no growth at all, since there is no expansion at all, people will consider your organization to be dull, to be a dead organization. So no matter what kind of tax compliances do, no matter how you try to do your tax compliances, then nothing is going to work out for you. So in those simple terms, it is always advised, it is always stated that please do your tax compliances regularly, carefully, intelligently, and most importantly, always keep an eye on the rules which keep on changing. Can we move to the next slide? Yeah. Now comes one of my own personal favorite topics, that is intellectual property rights and compliances. Now, often you would have heard this terminology, often you have heard this statement that, यार मुझे अपने brand name का patent करना है. Or you would have heard that कि मेरे पास idea उसका patent करना है. Or you would have heard as simple as, भाई ये दाल मखनी बहुत अच्छी है, इसका patent करा लो. Why do people just throw this word patent left, right, and center? It may sound funny to my fellow, my friends from the legal fraternity or people who are well aware about this terminology called patents. But the harsh reality is that we all have a certain uniqueness to our business model or business ideas. We all have a certain uniqueness to what we create. We all have a certain unique entity that we have actually brought out, which invariably becomes so unique that it becomes our intellectual property. So intellectual property hota kya? Intellectual property is basically a property created out of the creativity of your mind. It is a property that is created out of the intellect in your head. It is created out of basically what you think is unique and what you think can be made unique. And if this can be commercialized, if it has a creative value, it has an artistic value, then it is an intellectual property. Intellectual property basically चार प्रकार के होते हैं. That is the most basic level I'm talking about. There are many types actually, but the four most widely heard of, one is your trademarks, copyrights, patents, designs. Simple, I'll repeat: trademarks, copyrights, patents, designs. What is a trademark? If I say a brand name, Adidas, and the logo of Adidas. If I say the brand name Apple, the logo of Apple. If I say McDonald's and the big yellow M of McDonald's, these are basically what you call as a trademark. These are trademarks. What are copyrights? Copyrights are something as simple as you've written a poetry, you've written a song, you've made a movie, or you've written a book, you've clicked a photograph. These are copyrights. Copyrights can also range into softwares because India is the only country which copyrights a software and not patents a software. But if the software has a certain kind of a process, then we patent the software in India also. So when I'm talking about a copyright can be licensed out to individuals. A copyright can be given out for royalty. So copyright will protect the artistic quotient behind it. Then comes a patent or a patent as people pronounce it. So a patent basically has your process patent and a product patent. So let's say that Royal Enfield has now come out with a new engine. That new engine will become a product patent. But if there is a process to make that engine, or if there is a process that can actually make fuel efficiency more, can increase fuel efficiency, or if there's a process that can tomorrow actually integrate a certain kind of a mechanism into a certain machine, or there is a process to medically treat a person for cancer through simple methodologies, which are not known to people, but which have been created by an individual. These are patents. So patents maximum you'll see are on the mechanical front and they are on the medical front. But you won't see it in Ayurveda because Ayurveda is traditional knowledge. So the fourth type of intellectual property is a design. So design in simple words is, अगर ये मेरे पास एक box है, ये box का जो बाहर का ढांचा है, meaning the outer layout of this box, the outer shape of this box, that is what we call as a design. So many times we identify products because of the unique shape or design that they have. If, for example, if I'm wearing these glasses, like the other day I had just walked into a shop and a person saw these glasses and they asked, did you buy it from Titan? I was like, how do you know this is Titan? He said, the shape says it all. So the other day I had just gone for a grocery store shopping. So I actually heard a child ask the father, कि पापा हार्पिक कहाँ से मिलेगा, हार्पिक किधर है? Papa just said one simple thing, कि बेटा वहां पे ब्लू कलर का एक यूनिक शेप में बॉटल होगा, रेड कलर का कैप है. So the child was able to identify it, he brought it over here. So the color and the design in particular, the shape, that was enough to, determine how a Harpic bottle looks. And there are battles and wars because people try to copy these designs. So when you're actually identifying an entity just by the shape of it, like for people who are car enthusiasts, automobile enthusiasts, they would definitely be able to identify how an Ambassador looks like, how a Volkswagen Beetle looks like, how a Mahindra Thar looks like. So the outer shape is what you call as a design. So intellectual property compliance, many people will tell you, "Arey, it's not that important. Arey, kuch nahi hoga. Arey, baad mein register kar lenge." It's not like that. It is as important as filing it right here, right now, along with your company registrations and compliances. Do not ever make the mistake of taking an intellectual property for granted. Because many times I have seen that young entrepreneurs and startup owners, they do not want to invest on intellectual property because it is expensive. They only do it because it is available online. Somebody is doing it for bare minimum. But the research that goes into an intellectual property for an entrepreneur, they need to remember that their intellectual property advisor has to think like them. Then it is easier and it is possible to register what you call as an intellectual property. Because without an intellectual property, if you're functioning in the market, you can be well assured, you can be 101% assured that other organizations will try to replicate it, copy it, duplicate it, and run it in the market, and invariably throw you to the dogs. So always make sure that let it be a trademark, copyright, patents, and designs. You take it on time. You take it on time so that you can run your business without worrying that somebody else will try to duplicate it. Furthermore, since you've already taken a startup certificate or an MSME certificate, you can avail a certain amount of discount in your filings when it comes to an intellectual property through the Startup India program. But in cases of having an intellectual property, the advantage you get is that your investors actually love it. If you actually are looking for an investor and you say that you are compliance with your license compliances has been done, your company formation compliances has been done, you have done your intellectual property compliances and your taxes are strong, that is your entire accounting is strong, then that is more than enough for investors to actually just throw out their money to you. Because investors look for genuinity, and intellectual property and your entire company formation compliances, your financial compliances, all these entities and all these elements, they actually prove that your organization is legally strong and it is not having any illegal component sitting behind it. Can we go to the next slide, please? Now comes one of the most important kind of compliances: information technology compliances. Now, many startups we are seeing who are coming out into the market, including Mentami, who are all on the digital platform, who are not just on the digital platform, but who are also on the frontier, that these particular organizations, they provide mobile phone applications, web-based applications, they provide a lot of online services. So when such kind of services are coming in, do they need any kind of a requirement? Yes, they do. Apart from all the compliances we have spoken of till now, अभी तक जितने भी compliances की बात की, apart from all these compliances, they need to have cyber security compliances also. They have to adhere to the data privacy norms. They have to adhere to the GDPR norms, and they have to adhere to the fact that their entire user agreement, privacy policies, their cyber security compliances, their data protection compliances, their data protection standards are all properly governed. Because if they don't govern it, if they are not following the Information Technology Act, if they're not following the information technology rules, if they're not following the GDPR norms, then they're actually putting individuals' data at risk. My mentor always used to tell me, Keshava, the most dangerous entity on this planet is not a weapon, is not even poison. It is data, it is information, and especially sensitive information. So we are sitting in a juncture where everything for us revolves around information and data. Zomato knows pretty much how many calories go into my body every day. Swiggy knows how much calories go into my body every day. Amazon knows what kind of products I always choose to buy. So this kind of becomes like a trend. And even in Google, like you just go to Amazon, you just go to like just yesterday, I was thinking of selling my kidney and buying an iPhone. So where I just went online on Amazon and I just looked for an iPhone. I was like, it's still too expensive. Even my kidney can't afford it. I came out of it. But immediately on Google or Instagram, I have started receiving advertisements so that, you can get it at a 30% discount, you get it at a 40% discount. How does this work? It is as simple as ensuring that your cybersecurity compliance is not very strong. So people know exactly how you're moving. So basically you are generating cookies. So these entities, these massive conglomerates, or even people who are just sitting online, they know pretty much your entire movement. We call it a cyber psychology. So in that frontier, it is important for us to make sure that if I have an organization which is going to provide online services, I have to make sure, I have to 101% make sure that all my compliances are done right, so that if tomorrow there is a hacking incident, or tomorrow somebody tries to breach my data, or tomorrow somebody tries to steal my data, if tomorrow somebody tries to make an attempt to even harass me online, my cybersecurity compliances will help me, will save me. My cookies are not just lying around here and there so that people can just look at my digital footprint and misuse it however they like or however they want to. So that is the reason why it's extremely important for us to make sure that your entire information technology compliances and standards are maintained. And ISO 27001 would help you with that. Or if you have done a CISA-based cybersecurity auditing, then if you have a startup, please get it done. So Dr. Saili ji has asked a question, what about Ayurvedic medicines or new products, unique procedure patents? So like I said, Ayurvedic products, which is already spoken of since our olden times, since our ancient times. And since Ayurvedic products are pretty much made of already existing elements from the nature, it cannot be patented. But if you have developed a very unique procedure, which you have created, a procedure which you have created for helping people, then it's a different ball game altogether. Then you can actually talk about patenting it. But then again, if there is a massive Ayurvedic component to it, then patenting would become very difficult. I hope I've answered your question, Dr. Saili. Can you go to the next slide, please? Then comes a very standard aspect that you have to keep in mind, that is called as contractual compliance. Now, what is a contractual compliance and why a contractual compliance? Now, there is a very famous saying amongst all lawyers. Baki cheeze bole na bole, kagas bolta hai. What does that mean? It basically means that whatever is documented, signed, authorized, attested from the party, that is a more authentic document. Now, you have every kind of a document. You have work agreement, you have management agreement, you have mentor agreement. Mentor-mentee ke beech mein agreements hote hain. You have client agreements, you have your service level agreement, you have your software agreements, you have your non-disclosure agreements, your patent licensing deed, copyright licensing deed, you have your trademark franchising agreement. You have so many types of agreements that exist. And even you have your employment contract or employment agreement. Why contracts are important? I promise you that I will mentor you every day. You people say, okay. Next day you come to me, sit in front of me and like, sir, mentoring karo. And I'm like, maine kab bola karunga? Then you'll be like, arey sir, you promised na? Something as simple as that. Then you would think, sir, you sent a WhatsApp text, sir, look at your WhatsApp message. Then I'm like, acha, I did promise you. So contract is made. Simple as that. Contract is basically documenting what you have promised, documenting what you have assured, documenting what services you will provide, documenting how you will provide these services, documenting how the services are to be structured, documenting timelines, documenting the consideration or remuneration, amount, fees, paisa, jo bhi hai. So when all these factors are brought into play, when all these factors are structured properly, we call it as a contractual compliance. So in a contractual compliance, it is important and it is mandatory that all these aspects are done with a proper research, and it is properly done by a lawyer person who knows your business before knowing any other business. Because a contract's factual purpose is to help you get the ball rolling. Na? So for that, it is only possible if you are laying out all the pointers and all the points in the right way, in the right methodology possible. But if you're not doing that in the right way or right methodology possible, if the compliances are not done right, and even one word goes here and there, then the contract can go against you. Recently, I was dealing with a certain client of mine who he and his wife did not even read the contract. They just signed it because they were receiving a good consideration amount. But when they finally read it, they realized that that consideration amount that they were receiving was against the entire takeover of their organization itself. So they had pretty much signed their own death certificate. So always read every element in the contract before signing it. Because one tiniest mistake of not reading it right can throw us down and make us lose our business. And at the same time, reading the contracts right, creating the perfect contract, and creating the perfect system, a perfect alliance with the other people can also protect your organization legally. And contracts can be challenged in court. Can we go to the next slide, please? So just to put it in a nutshell, you first plan out, create a company, have a good mentor to advise you, have a good mentor to guide you. And through the right kind of a mentoring, you will know exactly what kind of a company you need to form. Once you know that you have formed the right type of a company, go with your startup compliances, go with your intellectual property compliances, make sure all your contracts are in the right place at the right time, go with your information technology compliances, And once that is done, make sure your auditor advises you and you get your tax compliances done right. So once all these entities and aspects are in the right place, then you can proudly say that as a startup, I'm running safe, I'm running sound, and I can eventually start growing without the need of worrying that will somebody file a case on me. It is as simple as that. So the house is open for questions. If anybody has any questions, they can feel free to ask.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Vishnu.
Thank you for whatever you have articulated. I must say that it will be helpful for the viewers in near future. And I just wonder how much it will be when we have one-on-one talk. And actually, we have taken 3 questions, but the question is open for you all. Whatever you want to ask, you can put it on chat box. And if you all are comfortable, then you can open your mic also and ask directly to sir, whatever question you have.
Hi, sir. So this is Monish here, and
Yeah.
I think it's been a very insightful session. So thank you for that. So I've just been wondering about asking two questions. So one question is concerned with IPR. So I think you did say that like if someone creates some kind of a software, then certain processes or whatever the unique process part of the software is that can be that property can be registered, right? So can you tell more about, say for example, I am from a marketing side, and suppose I create a marketing technology which automates communications, and I can have different APIs, different kinds of channels to market some clients. It could be products, could be content. So this question has got 2 parts. In one, is there a way to search for existing registered whatever intellectual property of other marketing technologies in India? And second is, if I apply without checking what is already been registered, then what is the process like? Like what happens after I apply for it?
Basically, there are 2 types of searches we conduct. We call it a prior art search, and the other we call it as a worldwide search. Okay. So in your scenario, what we do would be a prior art search. So we will basically give you a disclosure form where you give us the entire plan of action behind what you have created as a marketing technology. Okay. And what exactly are the claims and why you claim it to be unique. So once we have that information and data, there is a search methodology that we follow. It is basically a 10-day search methodology for us. In that, we create like a proper report, and a report will be given to you for you to understand what is the similarity of your product with any other existing entity. And suppose there is no entity at all which is in existence, like what you have created, then an empty report is a good news for you. Now, coming to the second question, what if you're going for a filing without having a report generated, or without having a search report, or without even searching? So here is the risk part of it. You file, but you do not do your background search. You realize that there is somebody else in the market. He or she has the power to challenge you because they have prior use. Because it's as simple as if I have been in existence for the last 30 days, 30 days later, you have come into existence. I have a prior use of 30 days. I've been in existence for 30 more days than you. So that factor, the older it is, the more novel it is, then it is just like fine wine. That's the issue that comes by when it comes to patents also. I hope I've answered that question.
Definitely you've answered. And like I said, I've got another question, which is concerning the GDPR compliances. So I've not seen many companies, put out that cookies banner on their websites when they're doing advertisements, especially in India. And I mean, I'm also aware, being on the marketing side, about how we are heading towards a more cookieless future. It's repositioning cookies in a different format. But how strong is it in India? Like how much required is it in India, especially if there is an international company who wants to run advertisements in India, especially retargeted advertisements?
See, if you are going to use Instagram as a base to work, or Facebook as a base to work, LinkedIn as a base to work, Twitter as a base to work, if you're going to put a certain application on like in the Apple Store or the Google Play Store, the compliances are mandatory. It's as simple as that. Because for India, there is nobody who's breathing down on your neck, at least not yet. Okay. But if it is challenged at the right place at the right time, then definitely you can go for a ride if your compliances are not there. You're directly in violation of something called a Section 43A of the Information Technology Act.
Okay.
It is extremely, and the violation actually puts you as creates a civil wrong against you. So in
Okay.
that kind of situation, you are in the, you will end up paying a penalty, or probably in a worst case scenario, if there is a certain loss of data or some kind of a mishap has happened, even the person can go behind bars.
Wow.
So it is important that the compliances are done right when it comes to information technology, and especially when you're adhering to the GDPR norms and GDPR rules.
Okay. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you.
No worries, Manish. Thank you.
I just want to put it out to other people, all the attendees here, that this access which I have got to ask one question and him giving so specific answers. Imagine what could happen in an entire 1 hour session when you're prepared with all your questions, and if you can track all these things. So this is what Mentami brings to you. Access to these kind of expert mentors who are not only intellectually expert but also experientially experts. So I think please do spread a word about Mentami, and make sure that you connect with different experts to get their advices at the right time.
So I think we have one more question. Sarangji has asked, what basic compliances we need to go for startup seed or equity funding apart from company registration? So have your intellectual property strong, have your financial records strong, have your GDPR norms and privacy policies strong. Okay. Apart from that, if you are going for a startup seed or equity funding, I would definitely advise you try to take a startup certificate and MSME certificate. It's as simple as that, Sarang. Okay. At least these are the basic things I would advise you to do. Okay. Great. Yeah. Vaishnavi, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. For if you all have any further queries, you can mail us on our mailing site, which is founder@mentami.com, and there we can connect you and solve your queries. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Vaishnavi. Thank you, Team Mentami. Looking forward to your official entering the market, and hoping that you'll be able to create massive change in the lives of young entrepreneurs, individuals, students, and everyone. And looking forward to more such webinars in the future. And all the best to Team Mentami. Thank you, Vaishnavi. Thank you, Monish. Thank you, Chinmayji, and thank you to the entire team out there.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
sir.
Thank you so much.